Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another live edition of Mic'd Up Sports, the show that goes in depth with the people who build our sports community. And I'd like to welcome all of you watching this podcast live on Facebook and those who are watching on demand through our YouTube channel. We've got a group of Holy Angels volleyball players. The Stars volleyball team finished 9-1 in the truncated fall season, enough to clinch a share of the Tri-Metro Conference title. And as I like to do customarily with group podcasts, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves to our audience?
I'm Kassie.
I'm Kaylee.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Kiera.
I'm Emma.
Well, glad all of you could join in for this group discussion. Of course, your season ended prematurely with the pause currently taking place in sports. You were able to get 10 games in, but if you don't mind, what are your thoughts, your feelings about at least getting an opportunity to play the season? It ended before you wanted it to, but how have you all managed this unprecedented series of events that we've dealt with this year?
Well, it makes you look at things with perspective. At first, we didn't think that we would have a season, and so it's nice we got the opportunity to play. And even though it ended early, it was definitely fun to bond with seniors and play with them one last time before they go off to college. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all just super grateful that we could still have somewhat of a season and still see each other in the gym every day and have fun.
And if you don't mind, Kassie and Kaylee, I know what grade you're in, but where Caitlin and Kiera and Emma, what grade are you all in for Holy Angels?
So I'm a junior this year.
I'm a freshman.
And I'm also a junior.
Okay, so hopefully all of you will be coming back and hopefully we'll be closer to normal. But what are some of the difficulties that you've had to endure, and how do you think you've grown where you've had to play this strange game? Like you said, Kassie, you're not sure if you were going to have a season. You at least got to have something of a season, but ever since March, we've all been wondering what the future holds.
Yeah, it's definitely so. What I learned is take it one game, one practice at a time. There's a lot of times like it was threatened, our season would shut down, blah blah blah, and so I think that the biggest thing that we took advantage of was like every minute of practice, we wanted to get better and we wanted to take advantage of it because we knew it could be at last. I know like going into every weekend, our Friday practice or our Friday game could possibly be the last time that we see each other. And so I felt like that every time we went in the gym, we always wanted to get better. And so that made really strong team chemistry because everybody pushed each other. Everybody was super close. And so this is definitely one of the closest teams that I've been on.
Yeah, like Kassie said, I feel like we really took it like one day at a time and just like did the most that we could with each day that we were given. So yeah, it was really nice to just like bond more over that.
On top of that, how strange was it to play a conference-only schedule? I know in volleyball, you're used to playing weekend tournaments. That makes up about half of the regular season schedule, if I'm correct. And then you schedule some non-conference opponents. I know Holy Angels historically have played some high-caliber opponents over the years, but to play within the conference, and you did well, the only game you lost was the St. Croix Lutheran, and then you got the sweep on them to end the regular season. So of the 10 games you played, you only dropped 3 sets. So what was strange about it, and what do you think contributed to this run you put together this season?
was definitely strange not playing high caliber teams and only playing our conference. Like when we played different teams outside of conference, they were normally all better teams that would help us better, and so we had to push ourselves. Yeah, kind of going off what she said. We in order to get better, we had to look more at ourselves and in practice push each other, because like some of these teams that we played, it was almost like it was like a scrimmage. I want to like, so the toughest games that we had were against the St. Croix and the De La Salle, and those are the teams that you practice to play. And so it was definitely weird not playing like those high caliber teams. Like last year, we played Catino Grace, and we scrimmaged against Cass and Manorville, and so it was weird not having the tournament that we do where we scrimmage all these really high teams that help us get better.
Yeah, I also feel like those other high caliber teams that we would play normally would get us prepared for other teams in our conference that maybe were more of a high caliber team. So it was kind of a disadvantage on that point, but I feel like we still practiced and played really well, or as best as we could, not having that experience.
I know for me, because I'm only a freshman, so this all kind of seems, I guess, normal, not only playing conference. But when you only have 10 games, you really try to make them all count, because, you know, we might, like next year, hopefully we get more games, but you always have to make every game count.
Now, if you don't mind, do you recall the moment, the first time you expressed interest in playing volleyball? What got you into the sport?
So Kaylee and I, we have two older sisters who both played. And so I guess from the beginning, we were always whatever sport you could pick up. And so we were always in a gym, always wherever. And so it definitely, I guess, from the womb, we were playing. And so there's probably not one specific moment, but I know just like over the years, like it's just been, it's something that I can't not do anymore. So it's definitely something that I hope will continue, and I already miss it. And it's not even been a week.
Yeah, for Kiera and I, both of our parents have always played volleyball. And so we were always exposed to it as a young age. And for us, it was fun because we had a built-in pepper partner together and we could always play together. We just needed a ball. And so we started from a young age too. Whether it was like at our brother's basketball practices, just us playing by ourselves in the corner, whatever touches we could make on the ball.
Yeah, and for me, I've always kind of tried different sports, and volleyball really just stuck with me. I really enjoyed it, so yeah.
And I had another volleyball athlete on in a previous podcast. It's a sport that I've been learning more about as I've been covering it at the prep level. I was a big fan of the Govers volleyball team when I was a student in Minnesota, and I would still get to a few games when I could. What are some of the common misconceptions when people approach you when they're trying to understand how volleyball works?
You know, like that's just like a stereotype, is all volleyball players are tall. And I mean, Kate, even Kaylee. I was 5'2" for a long time and had a growth spurt last year. He was not growing anymore. So.
Another one is, I think people always assume that it's super easy, just like a game of keep the balloon off the floor. But yeah, I think they'd be like really surprised if they tried it. You know, it's a lot more it's a lot harder, but it's also like a lot more like attention to detail, I guess. I feel like a lot of other sports don't really have that, but it's really, yeah.
I think it's also surprising how like mental the game is, not only like physical, but you have to be mentally composed and like staying calm because so much of it is like in your head sometimes, which makes it difficult.
That's becoming a common theme, the idea that the floor is lava in a sense, or don't let the balloon touch the floor. I tried to do a scrimmage with the Stillwater team a couple years ago. It was this fun role reversal because some of the parents were like, "Oh, what would it be like to have your job?" And so we just decided to flip roles, and it is difficult. I've joked that I would not want to be on the receiving end of some of those spikes that you and other athletes send because there's some pretty nasty velocity with it. But you touched on this too. It's not just keeping the ball away from the floor. There's a lot of timing, coordination, communication, and spacing, and you don't get much time to react to a play. So you have to know your position. There's a lot of strategy. Of course, there is with any sport, but I think there's a lot of intrinsic communication, intrinsic camaraderie that has to happen in order for volleyball teams to have success. What would you make of it?
It's definitely kind of like how you said, you have to trust your teammate. And I've been on teams where it's like you don't trust the teammate. And so you're trying to pass a ball in front of them and they're trying to pass one in front of you. You don't trust them to kill the ball. And so you're not setting them. And so this team, I did trust. I trusted every single one of them to make a play. And so that's definitely what played a big factor. And so, yeah, you definitely, big thing is trust.
Yeah, and I think the trust is something we've been able to work on over the years, being able to like play with mostly all of these girls for just like the past couple of years has been really helpful too. So we've been able to gain that trust. And yeah, it just takes time, but once you get there, it's really a good thing to have.
Mm-hmm. And it's surprising how much of a team sport it really is, even though like basketball is a team sport, but one person can dribble down the entire court and score. But volleyball, you need every single piece working in order to succeed. So it's very hard. That's why the trust part of it is really big. Just knowing your teammates and knowing their abilities really helps out.
What would you say is the strongest bond with the Holy Angels program? It's been a while since they last got to a state tournament, but as we've seen, even in years where they don't make it to state, they're posting solid records up until this year with the shortened season. You've had several 20-win seasons to your credit. What do you think is the key to that consistent level of success?
I would say probably like coaches pushing players the right way and a good bond between players and coaches. So Coachy always likes to talk. He likes to know how to push you. And me personally, I told him, if I'm just having a bad game, tell me. Just yell at me. Just go after me. And so like he just likes open communication, and that's how it is with most coaches. So I know like coaches that I've had in the past, like they like to have an open communication with all their players, and so they know how to push you, they know how to get you going, and how you can perform to your best ability.
Yeah, in addition to that, it's a team sport, right? So basically it takes everyone to like show up to practice, give their all, just be a team player. I feel like that's something we've been doing really well. We haven't really, been able to show our skills that well at this season since we haven't had sections or anything like that. But I think that's something that's really important for your success, is just everyone giving all that they have.
Especially like communicating with each other and the coaches, like coming in and just having the bond with all the girls and the coaches really help make like a winning team, as was shown this season.
And we all have a passion for the sport, which makes us want to be better. So each day coming in, we all have a drive, and we are able to then succeed because we all want it so badly.
How did you all stay limber, stay in shape as you were waiting to find out whether or not you would get a season? Because I understand there was no club season for those who compete in JO, and then you had to wait an additional few weeks with soccer and cross country getting the regular start time. Volleyball and football, they didn't get to start their seasons until mid-October. So what did you all do to make sure you would be ready to go if you got the call up?
Well, personally, I was always at a park. I always had some type of sport going on. There's a field over by our house, so we'd go take grounders or shoot some hoops, or even like pass the ball back and forth with the volleyball. And so just, I think the big thing was just always like touching. Like I was always setting, passing with Kaylee, playing a little bit of pepper, and then doing a lot of core stuff too. Was like sit-ups, push-ups, even if it's just like in your room every morning. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think like what was said earlier, like keeping our goals in the back of our minds, thinking like, well, if we don't get a season this year, then next year we're going to be that much better because we've been putting in so much work over the time that COVID's been taking over our season. But it's just being prepared for whatever happens.
I know Kiera and we really improved in our pickleball skills over the break. We would play in our backyard a lot, which helped keep us in shape, which was a fun little surprise.
For me, it was my sister who kept me accountable for like working out, because she really pushed me to do workouts with her when I had no interest at all. Lazy sometimes, but.
Now you're bringing up a really interesting point, and I've seen it at activity centers when they open it up for adults or non-students to use their facilities. I know Stillwater has a pickleball league, and a couple of you have talked about this. For those who don't know, what is pickleball and how does that cross over into volleyball?
Well, pickleball, I would describe it's kind of like table tennis, but way bigger. So the net is as short as like normal tennis, and it's with like a wooden racket, yeah, and then like a wiffle ball. And so I think it really taught us like how to hit certain shots and like really see where our opponent wasn't and going there. So it probably helped your hitting with shot selection and strategy, I guess. Yeah.
Right, coordination as well.
So could we see a Holy Angels pickleball team in the near future?
That's a good idea, actually.
Let's bring it up to the school.
Because in my head, I'm going, oh, Holy Angels, they have a strong athletic program, as we've seen over the years in football and girls basketball, soccer and volleyball, and pick a sport. It seems like they're in the conversation. So why not add pickleball to the list?
Honestly, you already spoiled our plans.
I've already spoiled our plans. This is why I don't post spoiler reviews, folks, because I will divulge secrets. Holy Angels pickleball. I can't wait.
Coming soon.
Oh, who would be the rival in the Tri-Metro?
No, De La Salle. I mean,
Probably De La Salle. On that note, who would you say is your biggest rival in volleyball? Because your team has performed well in the Tri-Metro over the years, and then the conference got shaken up a bit when schools like Concordia and I think St. Agnes and others moved over to the Skyline. So who is the biggest rival you look forward to now?
St. Croix. By far, St. Croix. Personally, I mean, I always have a vendetta against De La Salle. They know, they all know. But for volleyball, it's especially St. Croix, because last year they beat us, and then this year they took a game from a match, and so then it's definitely a back and forth type thing.
Yeah, definitely going into that last game when we swept St. Croix Lutheran. We definitely had motivation to beat them.
Another thing you touched on with the off-season regimen, and as you can see on our screen, we have a couple pairs of sisters here. And Emma, I don't know if you have any siblings that were able to join you. And if you didn't, I don't know if you got someone to help you out with the off-season drills you put in. But how do you think that, well, obviously it helped with the pandemic because you had someone you could play off of, but how do you think you fuel each other to do well? Caitlin and Kiera, you were speaking of how Caitlin kept you motivated. Kassie and Kaylee, I know you are 2 of 5 sisters in the Caron household. And Emma, I imagine you also find ways to stay involved, stay motivated, and keep pushing. What was that dynamic like in the midst of this pandemic?
Yeah, so for me, like I said, it was just keeping, my goals in the back of my head, knowing what I want to achieve, and then just making a list of everything that I want to accomplish, like whether it's get my vertical up, get my quickness and agility better, just trying to keep myself at the top of my game as I can. But yeah, I think it was just mostly self-motivation, and yeah, that really drove me.
I think it's like with Kaylee and I, is definitely just each other. We always pushed each other. Kaylee knows the goals that I have for myself, and I know the goals she has for herself. And so we both want the best for each other, and we know each other's full potential. And so we just want to push each other to be that.
And it was also easy when you have a sister on the team because you can be so open with your dialogue with them. Like you can just abruptly tell them what they're doing wrong, and it's completely fine. And it leads to progress faster actually, because we're not afraid to tell each other anything. So I think it actually helped having lots of sisters on the team.
Emma, I'm wondering, are you allowed to be as blunt as our groups of sisters on the Holy Angels volleyball team?
Yes, I try to be. It's obviously like, don't feel as comfortable screaming at Kiera or something because we're not sisters. But yeah, I feel like we're definitely really close, and we're able to have like open dialogue, like Caitlin said, but like, still knowing that we all mean love and we all love each other at the end of the day.
On the plus side, though, Emma, you don't have to worry about going home with them. So I would think that would allow you to maybe be a little bit harder.
Yeah, it's a plus, definitely, not having to, talk about how bad practice was or how great practice was, or get let know or something how I did horribly. So it's definitely, it's nice, but it can be hard or not as nice sometimes,
I'm sure you are courteous and professional about it from what I'm gathering so far, and just based on Cassie's recruiting, she's the one responsible for this group discussion. I'm guessing there aren't any ruffled feathers or animosity that would interfere with this friendship that you have built over the years.
I think we're like a big family almost. We all want the best for each other, and so they're not going to be ruffled feathers just because we all just love each other so much, and we all know what we can do, and we all know what each other brings to the team. So.
Yeah, and I think we all knew we were a very talented team and that we were gonna go far, and so we all had a good team goal, and so we knew that even if slight changes had to be made in order for the team to improve, we were all okay with like taking a step down or letting someone else have their moment so the team could succeed.
For our pairs of sisters in this podcast, volleyball, of course, not a sport where you can do a traditional one-on-one, but have you had any sort of intra-scrimmages? And if you were to go against each other, who do you think would come out on top?
I mean, if it was between Kaylee and I against Kiera and Caitlin, we would win, obviously. But if it was between Kaylee and I, I'd win.
No, it wouldn't be.
I think every single practice we have like little competitions. Like whether it's just like a little drill, we'd be like, oh, I can do this better than you. I can do this better than you. Or when she'd be on the other side of the net, she'd be hitting at me. She'd be like, did you see? I got a kill on you. And I was like, hey, Kiera. She'd love to really show me up anytime she could.
And Emma, for those competitions, are you the arbitrator when you have to settle a dispute between our groups of sisters here?
Sometimes I have to be, but it's really fun, and it's all friendly competition, but yeah, it's really nice and fun to see.
Since you spoke of this extended family, what are some moments, memories that you believe symbolize the friendship you have built on the volleyball court?
I think one of the biggest things is our locker room talks. So when one of us is having a really hard day, we all are there for them, all are there to hear and help. And if we all like are in a good mood, like it's great. So definitely our locker room moments are by far the best.
One moment that stood out to me, we had a senior who took the test and didn't do that well. And so it was before a game, and we all just surrounded her and supported her. And she was able to play well because we supported her.
One memory.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. One memory that like kind of stuck with me is at the end of the St. Croix Lutheran game when we all had at the last point, all the girls came out on the floor and we had a big kind of group hug. And I like rewatched that game and I saw that and I got goosebumps just because it really showed like we are one big family who supports and welcomes everyone.
Yeah, I think like what was said, just everything that goes in behind the scenes, like after practices, going to dinner before games, just talking, having little conversations, and just like the little things I think are the things that I'll remember the most and cherish.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we're off the court, we did a lot of team bonding this year, which really helped strengthen all of our friendships. And we work so well together and we have so much fun together. It was an extraordinary team.
And I think another big thing is like in the halls too. We're not afraid to say hi to each other. Emma and I had a couple classes together, and so we'd always talk about practices and games the night before. And so it's just, you're not a stranger when you're walking through the halls. Like if I see Caitlin, I'm gonna push her into a locker. And
She does.
so
Wait, you push her into a locker? How did that start?
Just playful. Just always playful.
I was going to say, there wasn't some sort of rift, anything like that, was there?
No.
Kassie, I didn't know you were so physical with your teammates, pushing them into lockers.
I'm just a bully that way, I guess.
Now, Kassie, I happen to know a little more about you owing to our interactions with sports, but I'm curious, for the rest of you, and Kassie, feel free to participate in this element as well, but what are some other sports or activities that you take up when you're not playing volleyball and pushing each other into lockers?
Well, I played basketball and softball along with Cassie. And she's a lot better at basketball than me, so I'll let her win that one. But,
Your time is coming, though, Kaylee, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
I also play basketball too.
Got our freshie there. I know that both Caitlin and Emma play club volleyball. Both of them are really good, and they're always there to teach me a rule about volleyball that I had no clue about. I'm still known as that tall basketball girl that plays volleyball. So they're definitely not afraid. No, Kassie, you can't do that on the floor. And so
Yeah, for me, volleyball pretty much takes up most of my time, but another hobby I kind of enjoy is golf. Yep.
Yeah, I'm more of a big pickleball player. That's probably my most outstanding talent at this point.
Well, on the basketball side of things, I'm guessing Kaylee and Kiera, Kassie has probably warned you about me whenever it's safe to play again, because I usually hit up Holy Angels a few times per winter. So I'm guessing you're well prepared about what happens when I show up. And Emma, who is your club program, and how does that help you in the high school season and vice versa?
Yeah, so I play for M1, and I think it's really nice to have the two because you learn so many different things from different coaches, different players. It really makes you adapt, and it's overall just like different experiences, but it's really fun at the same time.
And outside of sports, what are some other hobbies or talents, or as the breakdown likes to put it, an unusual thing about yourself that people wouldn't necessarily know?
I can say that Caitlin is really, really smart. I I always joke with her. I always call her my valedictorian because she may not be street smart, but she is very, very book smart.
Yeah, lots of studying. You know, we got to keep up the team GPA at this point.
Nothing wrong with that. I've joked when it comes to covering women's sports, when I talk to coaches or parents, almost all of them say, yeah, I don't have anything negative. And not that I'm looking for any, but every time I talk to a coach or a parent or people that are involved with the programs, they're always lighting up and sharing how wonderful it is that you're a part of it. So Caitlin, since you helped Kassie get up to speed on the rules, what are some moments that stand out, maybe that might be amusing when you look back on it? Because I know for me, when I'm covering volleyball games, I know enough to get you through the game, but there are a couple of times, a couple of points where I'll see a signal or a whistle and I'm not exactly sure what happened. And I don't have someone alongside me to explain what happened like I do in basketball. But for you, how does it feel to be the rules analyst of the team?
Well, I'm pretty sure one time Kassie tried to block a serve. She really loves to be up there at the net, and especially for her, since she's just such a beast at the net. She'll always like jump and go over the net and then like touch the ball while it's on their side of the net. And the ref always calls it. Every time I go over to Kassie, I'm like, Kassie, you have to stay on our side of the net. And yeah, I just think Kassie is she's so aggressive, not in a bad way, but she wants to win, and she's going to do anything she can, even if it means bending a few rules. Whatever works.
What you're saying is that she would be an outstanding addition to the pickleball team that you're about to put together, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to recruit her soon. You'll get a letter about that, Kassie. Don't worry about it.
Tryouts are coming.
But yes, that is amusing. Kassie, have you learned over the years to maybe wait that extra second? Because I know in basketball it's a little different, where if you think you've got to play in the ball, you can go for it. But in volleyball, as you've learned, and I'm guessing most of you have learned over the years, right, you have to wait until the ball gets over to your side, because volleyball is one of those interesting sports where you cannot cross over for any reason. I've always found that intriguing.
Yeah, it's definitely so I know that I've acknowledged throughout the years that you have to wait the right amount of time before you jump if you don't want to hit the net or whatever. And so it's definitely helped over the years to have people like Caitlin and Emma and even Kaylee teach me the rules and make sure I'm strict and strictly following them and not blocking serve. But yeah.
I think it's also funny to see Kassie progress from only basketball, and I can see her volleyball like IQ grow each year. And she's a really good volleyball player, and she understands the game, and she knows the strategy, and it's so fun to watch her when she's fully getting it.
Well, I have an amusing anecdote or footnote to that story. The first time that I recall hearing or remembering Kassie's name was last year when I did the Totino Grace volleyball game, and I saw she was starting. And I didn't think anything of it until I got to see her in basketball. And then I found out, okay, now I know why basketball is one of her big sports. But I always enjoy the crossover athletes. I had Rachel Kowicki on in the spring, and she holds the state record for most state tournament appearances through her 3 sports. And I've seen a lot of that with Holy Angels, and not everyone does it, and that's fine, but there are a lot of athletes that go from one sport to the next. And I asked Rachel about this in the spring, and I'll give you the same opportunity to share your analysis. What do you think makes Holy Angels a competitive program across the sports spectrum? They may not always win state championships, but there are always at least 2 or 3 teams, it seems, in each season that are making the state tournament. With fall, football and soccer and volleyball have a lot of success. We've seen basketball have a lot of success in the winter, softball do well in the spring. Those are just a few examples. You probably would know more, but it makes for a lot of publicity.
I think it, like, the cause of it would probably be support that you have behind you. Like kind of talked about, like, in the halls, like seeing your teammates, and those relationships don't stop as soon as the season's done. And so, like, even I remember my freshman year after a state game, I got a text, I think it was even from Caitlin or Emma, like, congratulating me on the win that we had. And it's just like those relationships continue. And especially like with teachers and stuff, a lot of the coaches are teachers, but the teachers you have will always support you. And last year they came out to a lot of games. This year they couldn't come to much, but I'm happy and be a safe place, I guess. So
Yeah, I also agree with that. The teachers are super helpful at Holy Angels, like always offering to go in before school or wait after school, because the sports season does get pretty long with practice every single day and games and stuff. And so they're really willing to work with you and they want you to succeed, which makes a big difference. So you can balance the schoolwork and your sports very easily.
Yeah, like Cassie said, I feel like we're all super close, and no matter what sport we play, we're all each other's biggest supporters, and I think that means a lot and just shows how close we all are, and yeah, how we all support each other so well.
My French teacher is very good at knowing when I have like a volleyball game or a basketball game. You have a test the next day, he's always like, I'll give you like an extra 10 minutes to study.
Kaylee, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, so I don't know if it's a volume or just maybe speak up. Can you repeat what you were saying?
I was saying how my French teacher is very good at knowing our schedule, and he knows when we have a game or an activity the night before. He's very good at letting us have an extra 10 minutes for a test. To be prepared for the class.
What would you say throughout your volleyball history? You know, some of you finished up, I believe, your first year on varsity, and Kassie and Emma and Caitlin, you've been at this for a while now, but what has been your most exciting moments and your most embarrassing moment?
I think I should start with my most embarrassing moment. So I know, but my top one is probably the way I died. So when I dive for a ball, there's just a lot of lankiness to me that goes with it. And so I have limbs everywhere and it's not graceful. And so it's always like, when I'm watching back film, I'm like, yikes, I thought I looked good diving there, but no, I didn't. And then I watched dives like from Kaylee, Kiera, Caitlin, and Emma, and they're the most graceful things. Like they just get the ball up and no, it looks effortless. And so that's definitely like one of my most embarrassing moments. And then most exciting is either being St. Croix and De La Salle, or how excited I would get to come to a practice. These girls are some of my best friends, and I knew I could always count on them to be my biggest supporters and push me. And I just know, like Emma would always push me. Like she would tell me what I'm doing, and she would be like, "Oh, I need to set here," and I'm like, that's like one of the biggest things I like. I will take it on myself to make her look good. And so she'll be like, "Oh, you need to put it here so I can look good." And like Caitlin will always compensate. She'll be like, "Oh, was that ball too tight? Was that like," she will always make sure it's perfect for me. And Kaylee will, be Kaylee. She'll be like, "Yeah, you know, that you're just not having a good practice." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And then Kiera, she just shows up with a smile. Like everything. Like if I completely mess up, she's like, "No, that's my bad." It's like, "No, that's so mean." She just like brightens my day. Like
she's like the little baby of the team. We all were like super, super gentle with her. We just wanted to make her happy.
I had my locker next to like in the same row as her, and I would just turn and she'd be like smiling. And I was like, "Oh," that innocentness right there. Yeah. Oh, I just think we all brought something to the team. And that is one of the things that excited me.
Yeah, for me, an embarrassing moment, I have a few actually, but they all consist of serve receive. I've had some pretty ugly falls or just not good looking dives, and yeah, that's been caught on film and not my best moment, but an exciting moment's definitely winning close games and just everyone being there for each other, and the feeling of just everyone being so so close and then just included, everyone being happy for each other no matter what happens. I really enjoy those moments.
Probably the most exciting moments for me is whenever, like in a big game, the pre-game like talk and the cheers and the chants in the locker rooms, because that always gets all of us like hyped up. And I haven't had a terribly embarrassing moment, but I mean, I still have 3 more years, so I'm sure one's gonna happen soon.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten hit in like the face or like the chest before, which does not feel good. Or sometimes I'll like go to the line to call the ball out, and it'll either land on my foot or it'll land like on the line right where I'm standing, and that's never a good sign.
Well, and I think that speaks to that rapid fire vibe with volleyball, because I've seen that with rally scoring. Of course, you're going to have a lot of moments like that. They're hard to avoid because you have to score 25 to win, 15 in the last set. But a point on every play, you're having to make these split-second decisions. And in other sports where you might have time to react or compensate, as you alluded to, with volleyball, you don't have that. So you get one shot, one guess, and you hope it's the right one. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And what I like about the sport, because of the rally scoring, if you get a moment where a serve or a hit attempt goes off your foot or touches the line when you thought it was going out, you get a chance to make up for it on the very next play. So you don't have to wallow for too long on miscues, because you get another chance with the very next serve to make up for it. And I've seen that too. You've all shared some interesting stories in that regard. And since we have a mix of players here with Kassie, and I think you're one of the frontline hitters, we have some liberos, defensive specialists, setters. I think you've all taken on those roles. What goes into those bump set spike routines, as we're used to calling it, or when you sense an opportunity to go into a setter dump, when you go through one of those set plays, maybe just take us through that. What is the key to pulling off a successful set play when you have to put it together in a matter of seconds?
For me, when I like to think about it, I'm just a passer, so I don't have to think about it too much. I just pass the ball to a specific spot and then I'm good for it. But I think what really helped our set plays this year was our fast tempo. We started to like become faster towards the end of the year, which really helped open up our hitters. So they would maybe only have a single block or no block, which really opened up their like shots, which they could hit. So I think that faster tempo, and we were super flexible this year. So our hitting options were so spread out throughout the court that our opponents really did not know where we were going. And Kassie can hide her set so well that nobody can tell where we're going. I don't even know where we're going, but we still managed to get the ball down every time. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I also feel like it's a lot of reps, practice. We've worked really hard in practice to perfect all of our plays, and I think it's really showed, especially like Caitlin said, when we sped up our offense. But yeah, I think it's just lots and lots of reps and practice has really gone into it, which is shown by how we've played.
And I think it goes back to the trust again. Trust is like something it's really hard to build, but really quick to lose. And so it took a lot to build up that trust, that I knew that Kiera, Emma, Sophie, and the rest of them could put down a ball if I said that. And so, and that's like the big thing is you have that one hitter that you're going to go to end the rally that will put that ball down. And it didn't matter where I went. I knew that they could put the ball down. And so that just opened up options. And so it made my job easy. So another thing would be everyone just did their jobs. Like Caitlin and I just passed, and we made sure that it was a perfect pass for Kassie to then set to a perfect hitter, and the hitter would be able to kill. It was just simple. Everyone did their job, and that made it successful.
Now, before we started, I got to learn a little bit about your interests outside of sports. We have a couple pairs of Mandalorian fans in our group. But what are some TV, film favorites of yours when you do get a chance to unwind, relax, when you're not focused on sports or studies? What are some of your preferences when it comes to the realm of media?
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies, and I also love to watch SpongeBob every single morning. I think it's funny. It brightens my day. So,
I don't know. I kind of watch whatever Caitlin watches because she never lets me like use the TV. So whatever she watches, I'll watch. So.
We've been watching Game of Thrones together, which has been kind of scary. I kind of like hide behind Kiera most of the scenes. So yeah.
So you don't let her choose what programs you want to watch and then you go hide behind her?
Yeah.
Caitlin, you might want to reevaluate your choices there. I tease, of course, but continue. I think I jumped on the Karens there. Didn't mean to do that.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have these Star Wars pants that I used to wear all the time to practice in games. I will watch all the Star Wars movies every single day. It's also my best friend. How many times did you watch? Like 8 times? 9 times. 9 times she watched all of the episodes. And whenever I don't even know what night it is the episode comes on, she comes into my room and she like tells me about it. She's like, this is what happened and then this happened. I'm like, okay. But back to her Star Wars pants. They're like fleece. And she wears them every day. Like she'll wear them to the grocery store. I'm like, Kaylee, wanna go get some food? She's like, let me get my pants. Kaylee's someone you can always count on for a laugh. She also has this blue bird blanket that she has a hood on it and it like sits right here and it like flows out and it's a giant blanket and she'll wear that around the house. And so she's just someone you can always count on for a laugh.
For me, I've recently started watching a lot of Christmas movies to get into the spirit. And yeah.
So you're all about the Hallmark Christmas marathon there, Emma?
Yes, of course.
Do you have a favorite among the Christmas films that you've seen?
I have a few. So Christmas Vacation, it's a good one. The Grinch, that one's pretty good. I don't like Elf. That's gonna shock people, but yeah, I think those are my top favorites. Home Alone's good too.
And Caitlin, what is your favorite among the Disney films?
I love Lilo and Stitch. That's like one of my favorites. I also love Moana and all of the classics like Finding Nemo, The Lion King. Those are all fun to watch too.
For me, the last few years, I feel like I've been reliving my childhood with all of the remakes and the reimaginings of said movies. And it's like, yeah, I'm showing my age, aren't I? Because I remember when the originals came out. I was around for some of them. Kaylee and Kassie, I know you're, of course, big into Star Wars, and I'm sure we'll go into it a little further on Wednesday too, but do you have a favorite film in the Star Wars saga or program in the Star Wars universe? Any like real interests or things you can't wait to see?
My favorite film out of the Star Wars is New Hope. Just because it's the start. I mean, not really the start, but it was the first movie that came out that led to the rest. My favorite. I like them all, so no big deal. But I mean, what I have to watch is my entire family has watched Mandalorian, and so I've watched really got me into it, so I want to go back and watch it all. And so looking forward to that.
Yeah, Friday nights have become appointment viewing in my household with The Mandalorian, so we can keep up with all of the developments and plot lines, and then I can't get spoiled. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks, of course, as we try to ride out this pandemic, as we try to stay safe, but I imagine you're hoping to have a full season next year. Hopefully we'll get to that. But what would you say is your approach or attitude having to endure this really weird sequence of events, something that no one ever prepares you for? You don't go into practice or prep for a season thinking, oh, how do we manage a pandemic on top of it? But whatever happens, what are you excited about getting the chance to play a season and at least get an opportunity to showcase your talent, polish your skills? What do you hope that will do as you head into next season on the volleyball circuit?
I'm mostly I'm kind of like excited for is like to see them all again, and play with them all. And so I'm really hoping like just everybody over the winter works hard, keeps in shape. I know it's going to be really hard, but even just like doing push-ups and sit-ups, because we have summer workouts in July, and so like that's something that we all want to prepare for. And so I think that if everybody comes back into the season like willing to work hard and give it their all, that we will be just as good as this past, if not better.
Yeah, I agree with what Kassie was saying. Since we're only losing 3 seniors, it's going to be relatively the same team next year. And so for everyone to just be, we all know for the most part our roles already. So just working hard over this off season to everyone individually improve. And so then our team will just be that much stronger next season.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're picking up where we left off in a certain way. So I think it'd be like really important that we just take everything one day at a time. It's like the only thing we really can do in this day. But yeah, I think this next season is going to be really special.
On the subject of looking forward, where do you see yourselves, whether it's playing at the collegiate level or transitioning to another sport or even transitioning to any career aspirations you might have? For some of you, it might be a little early to ask that question because you're still in your freshman seasons at school, so you've got a little while to go. But that being said, what are some of your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations as you move forward and just roll with the punches?
Well, personally, I'm looking at studying pre-vet or sports management. And so in my college search, I'm looking at schools that have that. And I am also looking at playing basketball in college. But I wouldn't be opposed to playing volleyball now, I guess. I know Kate has been pushing me and working hard. She's like, don't quit. You have so much talent. And she just has always pushed me to stay intact with the sport. But yeah, I also really, really want to get a couple dogs in the future. My house will be full of dogs. And personally, I have no idea what I want to do. All I know is I would be all right if I played ball.
Played volleyball, and for you, Kaylee, I'm guessing any way you could hang on to your Star Wars collectibles, you'd be fine with that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so would you have to keep them away from Cassie's dogs?
Definitely.
And Kassie, I think it speaks to your support network. I know of your friendship with Rachel Kowicki, for example, and it sounds like you have Caitlin to support you in volleyball. So, between all of the networks you have in these three sports, I think you have a lot of folks who would help you out if you'd settled on volleyball or basketball or softball. So, yeah, you've got no lack of support over there.
It's definitely nice to have Emma Campbell and Caitlin to call up in the middle of basketball season and rant. I mean, just you're like, oh, this is what's going on and this is what's really making me angry. But it's also Rachel, volleyball is the only sport that I don't play with Rachel. And so it's nice to have be able to call her up and talk to her, and we still hang out, and she's still one of my closest friends, and she's someone I can always rely on. And so I can always call her up and tell her what's going on, and she's learned enough throughout the years that she knows the basic principles of what I'm talking about. But yeah, so she's definitely someone who's there for advice. She's definitely one of our biggest supporters as the entire team. Everybody knows her as that proud person who's always by my side, even if she can't be playing on the same court.
And for the O'Rourkes and Emma, how would you answer that question that I posed a minute ago? What do you see yourselves, I guess, is what I was saying.
I haven't even had a meeting with my college counselor yet, but I actually have no idea. I don't even know if I want to play sports in college yet, or basketball or volleyball. It's I have a lot of deciding I need to do, but definitely sports medicine has interested me for some time, but I have yet to decide.
Yeah, I don't think I'll continue volleyball into college. Maybe play for a club team in college. I think that would be fun. But I think I'll go into something in medicine probably. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, for me, I don't really know what I'd like to do yet, but I know I'd probably I would like to play in college, so.
Fair enough. And what would you say to any prospective students at Holy Angels or elsewhere that
it's 4 o'clock?
What was that?
Our computer, every single hour, it tells me what hour it's at. It's a mysterious voice.
I was like, for a moment, I'm thinking, what, did one of those Charlie Brown adults show up and I have to... No, actually, no, because we wouldn't be able to make out what it was saying. But yeah. I was like, what? What? Wait a minute. What? Oh, you never know what will happen on these live stream podcasts, folks. Random voices. What's going on? But for those who are considering volleyball, or if you play multiple sports, as some of you do, what advice would you give to future athletes, whether they're thinking of going to Holy Angels, or if you were to speak to a viewer who isn't from the area? I get a lot of those with my broadcasts. What advice would you give to anyone who is thinking about jumping in or trying to add multiple sports to the resume?
I would definitely say work hard. That is the biggest thing. And you probably get told that a lot, but it's no joke. Personally, I'm looking at playing basketball in college. And so it's not something that I can just do. I have to work at it. I have to do push-ups and sit-ups and work on my core every day. I can't go weeks without touching a basketball. And so if you want to be good, you can't just pick it up, right? You have to work at it. And I know both Caitlin and Kaylee had a freshman message them on Instagram asking them how they get to where they were. And Kaylee showed me it. And she's like, what do I say? And I was like, tell her to work hard. I mean, it's not our program is so good compared to what it was when our older sisters were playing. That if you just show up, all right. Yeah.
Gesundheit.
Oh yeah. And if you just show up to tryouts, you're not gonna automatically be put on varsity. Like even like some schools in the Tri-Metro, if you just show up, you will be on varsity. But that's not the case with Holy Angels. You have to be able to work hard. And like multi-sport athlete is, I can't just focus on one sport. I have to be able to, like if I go to the park, I have to bring along my softball bag, my basketball stuff, and my volleyball stuff. Because just focusing on one sport, if I want to be on varsity for all three, I have to do the same with all three.
Yeah, I think Kassie said it perfectly. Like, I mean, you really have to put in the work if you want to be at the top. And I think it just shows that, you know, we all put in so much work, and we really worked hard to get where we are. And it doesn't happen overnight. You really need to be prepared to put time and lots of effort into it. And I don't play multiple sports, but I'm sure that's something very difficult than just, you know, working on one sport the whole year round. But I think just staying focused and keeping your goals in the back of your mind and just working really hard is really important.
Yeah, for me, I've learned to keep a growth mindset. So like your mistakes don't define you right now. Like you can work off those and use them to better yourself. And also just, it's not only about your talent and your ability, but also like your leadership skills and like how you interact with people, and just staying like a positive part of the team and being a good teammate is super important for these really team-based sports.
You touched on something I would like to address as we get close to wrapping up this podcast, but hearing that Caitlin and Kaylee, you've already received messages on Instagram from prospective athletes saying, you know, how do I get involved? What do I need to do to get to your level? I don't know if the rest of you have received similar messages, but what do you think that says about the work, the investments that you put in to these sports, and how cool is it to get messages on Instagram or other social media from people that maybe you haven't met before, or maybe they're your fellow classmates, but to have that kind of impact on people, what does that mean to you?
I think for one, it shows how competitive volleyball has gone at Holy Angels. Like it is very hard, and you need to put everything in it in order to improve and to get high up in this program. And I think it shows a lot. It makes me feel good that people think they can come to me and ask my advice in order for them to really improve. Just shows how like leadership over everyone is important. And yeah.
It kind of made me realize how much of a difference I've made, at least at Holy Angels, if someone comes up to me and messages me that they want to know what I can do and how I did it. And so it just puts everything into perspective about that at least I'm doing something right if someone's wanting to learn from me.
Yeah, it's fun to be like a role model for younger people to look up to. And it just puts a little more pressure on you. You know, you have to be a good person. You have to be good at volleyball. You know, you always have to be performing, but it adds more fun to it because you know people are watching you, and it's really fun to play that way.
And for the rest of you, have you received any messages of that nature, or have people come up to you and said, how do I get involved or how do I play? Just, I'm curious what kind of impact you've had in the community and outside of it.
I remember like, so whenever there's like a transfer or a freshman or incoming freshman, like there's people like it's called shadowing you. Like that was pre-COVID, obviously, but it's nice to tell them like their interests line up with yours. So if like my freshman year, I had a lot of basketball players shadow me that were 8th graders looking at coming to the Angels, and so it was nice to talk to them about my experiences that I'd already had with Woods and Joburg and Russell, and like even being on the volleyball team too. It's like you get to tell them, and so it's nice to like talk about like your experiences good with them, like your good experiences with them, and just kind of like it's fun to be a role model. It's definitely like fun to know that people look up to you, not physically and not just physically. So
Yeah. For me, it's a lot of my fellow freshman classmates who like talk to me about it and stuff. And it's kind of cool. Like you don't even need to be older to be like a role model. Like everybody will look up to you, and they have talked to me about like what can they do. And sometimes I talk to Caitlin about it. Like they get through me to go to Caitlin, but it's very cool just being put kind of in that role.
Yeah, it's nice to be somebody that, you know, people look up to, or I don't know, try to be the example for other people to follow in your footsteps, if that kind of makes sense. But like, yeah, it's just really nice to be the type of person that you feel like, you know, you're setting an example for people, and that you're the type of player that people can look up to. It feels really good.
Yeah, like my freshman and sophomore year, I always remember looking up to to the upperclassmen and to the captains and stuff, and just like watching their every move and wanting to be them. That like the roles are now reversed where we're those people. It's really cool to think about that.
The vibe that I've been getting, and this is something I stress too, especially with these podcasts, but when I cover games, I try to address this as well. At some point, you're not going to think about the records or the trophies. It's nice to get them, and it's nice to win and go to section titles, go to state. You know, who doesn't want to have that opportunity? But what you'll take away from it that you all have touched on is the friendships, the memories, and the moments that you had that wouldn't have existed if you didn't all come together to play this sport, especially in a year like this one, where you spoke of treating every game like it could be the last one, just enjoying the moment and making the most of it. And I'd say you've come together quite well, even if Kassie does shove her teammates into lockers. You might have to how are you going to put a stop to that? Because I'm just worried it's going to get out of control, and then you're going to have a big game against St. Croix next year, and then we won't be able to find the team.
Every single practice, I'll make like little comments at her, and she'll just start running at me. And I just have to sprint away as fast as I can before she smacks me or something like that.
Our seniors was joking. She was like, "Oh, aren't you all afraid of me?" And like out of nowhere, Kate goes, "No, I'm just afraid of Kassie." Like said it with a straight face, and everybody was kind of quiet, like, "Oh yeah, we are kind of afraid of you." And then Kaylee goes, "No, I'm just afraid of Kassie." I swear I'm not that scary. I'm laughing.
I'll have to take your word for it, because Kassie has never come charging at me at a Holy Angels game yet. There's still a couple of years. So I better watch what I say for future games so that she doesn't come looking for me now. But no, it's fun to see that, whether it's virtually or when you're together at practice. You know, and again, I certainly hope we're able to get together closer to normal next year, but I can tell it doesn't matter the setting. You all find ways to have fun, improve your talents, and you don't forget to laugh at yourselves even. So I really like that camaraderie, and it tells me that you're competitive, but it doesn't get you to the point where it's disrupting other parts of your life. if your favorite memories or moments involve Caitlin running away from Kassie in scrimmage. I have to imagine, Caitlin, over the years, then it's like maybe you should try out for track, because I'm guessing you've had some practice running away from your fellow teammates.
Yeah, it's funny.
Give track a go.
Every single year, like I just push Kassie to come back, and like I'm like, Kassie, you need to play volleyball. Like I'm her biggest supporter, but every year she just bullies me out of it. So maybe I should just push her away from volleyball.
Yes, but then maybe you wouldn't have gone 9-1. I mean, look at how far she's progressed over the years. I mean, there was a time where she didn't understand that you can't cross the center line.
Yes, exactly. We need Kassie. She's a very big part of our team, so we couldn't do it without her.
Well, I appreciate you all coming on, and I'm definitely going to have to hit up a Holy Angels game next season, if we do have a season, just to see what happens now that all of these secrets are out. No, I tease, of course. I can tell. It's clear. In case anyone has any doubts, they all get along well. They wouldn't be having this kind of fun with each other if they didn't have that camaraderie and that friendship. So we have Caitlin and Emma O'Rourke, Kassie and Kaylee Caron, and Emma Campbell, who all joined us. Hopefully you will see them again next fall for Holy Angels Stars Volleyball. And if you would like to be a guest on a future episode of this program, just hit us up on social media at the Mike Peden on Twitter or Instagram. All you need is a story, and we'd love to have you on to share it. So until next time, thanks for watching.